This is the 100th anniversary of the Naval Reserve in Canada, and we have Commander Michael Sue with us from the HMCS Unicorn. Thanks so much for coming down to the studio.
Thank you for having me here.
I want to talk a little bit about yourself first, and then we'll talk about the Unicorn and the contribution it's making. How did you get involved with the Naval Reserve and now the HMCS Unicorn?
Growing up, I've always wanted to join the military. My grandfather served in the Army, and it's something that I always wanted to do. And then when I got to university, I had to figure out how to pay for university, and also I want to travel. So joining the Navy was kind of like, the best of both worlds. So I got to do some traveling and got paid while doing that, and help pay for schooling. At first I thought it was just going to be a kind of a summer fun gig, for a while, and didn't know that the career is going to last as long as it has. But almost 23 years later, I'm still here, and I'm now fortunate enough to be commanding officer of the Unicorn.
So talk a little bit about the Unicorn itself. There's the Naval Reserve, and how did that kind of come to be so that there's not full-time enlisted, not reservists, but naval officers, if you will. These are people who have full-time careers, but also are available and ready and willing to serve in the Navy.
Yeah, so the Naval Reserve was established in 1923 as a way of bringing the Navy to Canadians. And Unicorn is one of the first few units to be established. Being a landlocked province and being as far as we are, typically about 2,000 kilometers away from the nearest body of waters, the Navy seems pretty far for most Saskatoonians. So that is one of our biggest role, is to provide that connection with the Navy and the community. Saskatoon should be very proud because during World War II, we enroll over 3,500 officers and sailors to serve during World War II. So the population at the time, I believe, was about 40,000. And imagine walking down the street and asking about every 11th person, what are you doing today? And they're saying, oh, I'm joining the Navy. It's amazing. But at the same time, you have to remember back then there's no Facebook or
Sure.
any TV or anything like that, right? So the only thing they know about the Navy is what they've heard on the radio or newspaper. So the bravery involved to sign up for something that you have very little knowledge about, right? To go and serve in a capacity like that is just absolutely amazing.
So you mentioned that there's been a few sites before the HMCS Unicorn on 4th Avenue and 24th Street was built and constructed. Tell us a little bit about that, the name of it, and how you operate as a ship.
Yeah, so when we first started as a half company in 1923, and we were located around that area where I believe the breakfast place OEB is currently located. It's around there. That was our first location. We moved to several locations, but in 1943 we moved to our current locations on the corner of 4th and 24th. And we are commissioned just like a ship. So as the name implies, His Majesty's Canadian warship Unicorn, and it is an ode to the sailor, the seagoing sailors, so that when you are back home and you are working in a civilian career, which most of us are, have multiple careers in addition to serving part-time in the Navy, that you don't lose that connection with the Navy. That when you go down the hallway, it's called a passageway, or you go to the kitchen, it's called a galley. And it's also important to keep on building on that culture that's kind of baked into us as well, and continue on with that, the naval terminology and the culture.
So when you're on the ship at the Stone Frigate HMCS Unicorn, it's not that much different, or it's the same in some ways of the terminology and everything that you're using when you do head to the coast and onto a real ship.
Yeah, we follow all the same custom and traditions that you would find on board ship. We do everything, including when we raise the flags before we commence training activity. We do a color ceremony where we raise the flag, and we copy the exact same thing, so that transition for reservists when they do go to sea again, that it's not a huge leap. It should be a natural transition to go back to sea.
What do you look at for, I guess, the population here in Saskatchewan? Would there be strong numbers? Have you seen them ebb and flow, I guess, as time has gone by the past 23 years?
It definitely has ebb and flow quite a bit. We've hit as much as about 80 people in Unicorn in my 23 years to low of around 55. So it depends on what's going on, and we're stepping up our outreach activities and help educating Saskatoonian about the value of a naval reserve organization and the opportunities that they have. Right, I wish everyone knew about the opportunities that I had when I joined, and I'm just amazed at some of the new people that are joining nowadays. They are going on all sorts of deployments overseas. I wish I had that kind of opportunities when I joined, but now I'm deep in my career, so and I have a family, so I can't really run off all the time like that. But for the younger generations, I'm so happy for them because they are going on NATO deployments, UN missions. Some of my sailors are going serving in the Baltic and Mediterranean. So these are great memories that they're building.
If I was to sign up for the reserve, what could you give us a bit of insight into what happens today versus maybe when you started? Was it that much different?
I don't think it has changed that much, to be honest with you. Like something have changed. The overall technique is still the same for the most part. So initially speaking, we do a basic training where we bring you up to the military standard, and then we have a basic naval component as well, so that we can give you some of the basic knowledge about the Navy. Like some of the names like galleys and what's a heads, right? Which is washrooms in the Navy. Mm-hmm. So we do teach all that at the basic level, and then typically you go off on your trades training. Most reservists can expect when they join to spend about 3 summers doing training, which lines up quite well for a lot of university students, right? Typically you are off for 4 months, yep. And we line a lot of our training around that, so that when they are available, then they can go off and not only train, but they also make money to help pay for their schooling as well in the fall.
What happens with anyone who may get called up for deployment if you have a reservist for a reason and we need to send you to the Baltic or other places in the world? Are you kind of shoulder tapped, and then if you can leave your job, then you do, or do you look for someone who's fairly mobile?
No, we don't just tell people that they're going on deployment. It is still very much a volunteer thing. We have rotations published, for certain deployments, and we publish it to the rest of the unit, and then people then can put their hand up and say, I would like to go on that deployment. And they usually publish like positions as well. It's not just for everyone, right? So there are very key positions they're looking for as well. So it's kind of nice because you can actually pick and choose based on your availability, and if you actually want to go to that part of the world as well. I'm kind of jealous because some of my friends have deployed to Japan for NATO mission, for UN missions. Like I wish I have that kind of availability to go and do something like that, right? But there's so many of those out there right now, and so many opportunities to go overseas.
If you have opportunities like that in front of you, do you see people who may have an interest? Would they come down to the Unicorn, or would they go online? Is that done through the Canadian Armed Forces, or what would be a process for you?
I would recommend people come in and have a chat with our recruiter. It's one thing to read about the information online. It's another to sit down in front of someone and ask those tough questions like, what am I expected to do? What are the expectations for getting my trades qualifications? What is my expectation when I come back in the fall during the school year? These are all things that recruiters can help answer. Unfortunately, you can read as much as you want online, but that just provides you a basic understanding of the Naval Reserve. having a sit down with someone is way more, informative as far as making that final decision to join or not.
And with the Remembrance Day ceremonies at SaskTel Center November 11th, they're honoring the 150th anniversary of the RCMP veterans, but in particular the 100th anniversary of the Canadian Naval Reserve. What does that mean for you and your members to have that kind of century-long tradition in Canada?
I for a long time, people ask me what does Remembrance Day means to me, and it changed so much through the year. But about 4 years ago, there was a teacher that I read an article about a teacher in Ontario, and he would fundraise and take as many students as he can to France. And visit all the graves of all the fallen Canadian soldiers. And they asked him, like, well, why do you do that? Like, why do you keep on doing that? And what he said resonated to me quite well, is that he does it because it's a way for us to remember when ordinary people do extraordinary things. And that is very true. Like, vast majority of people who have joined and served are regular Saskatoonans, just you and I. They have regular jobs. Some are doctors, some are teachers, some are engineers, some are farmers, mechanics, you name it. They come from all walks of life, and they are ordinary people like you and I, but they decide to do something extremely extraordinary and by joining and serving.
I think that's commendable, and I want to thank you and all of those who volunteer and commit to the democracies and the freedoms that we have, and appreciate all of that. And a big shout out to the HMCS Unicorn. We talked about Mike Steckham and Dean Pringle from the Saskatoon Police Service, who have been a part of the HMCS Unicorn and its long-standing history here in Saskatoon. Commander Sue, thank you so much for coming with us today, and we'll see you at the Remembrance Day ceremonies in Saskatoon.
Thank you very much.
Good. That's our show for today. I'd like to thank our guests Malcolm Young and Brent Wigness with the Remembrance Day Committee, as well as Lieutenant Commander Michael Sue from the HMCS Unicorn. I'm your host, Randy Shabala. We'll see you next time on Connect.